Have you ever met someone who felt strangely familiar, as if the universe whispered their name long before you heard it out loud? They appear when your life seems steady, even predictable, and suddenly everything inside you begins to shift. You don't plan it. You don't expect it. Yet somehow, they awaken a part of you that had been sleeping for years. It is confusing, magnetic, almost inconvenient, because deep down, this isn't just another connection. It is a mirror you didn't ask to see. I used to think these encounters were random, a coincidence, a trick of timing. But Jung once said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. And maybe that is what these people are. Catalysts. Not here to stay forever, but to change the chemistry of your soul. You feel it the moment they enter your orbit. Your thoughts quicken, your emotions intensify, as if something deep within you is waking up, whispering, pay attention. And even when the rational part of you insists it is impossible, your intuition, quiet, unwavering, knows that this meeting carries weight. Perhaps that is why the ones we cannot be with often leave the deepest mark. Because they were not meant to complete us. They were sent to reveal us. Sometimes, the universe doesn't give you the person you want. It gives you the person who will shake your life open so you can finally meet the parts of yourself you have been avoiding. And that is where the journey begins. Not with them, but with the reflection they awaken inside you. You think of someone you haven't seen in years. Your phone lights up. You ask the universe for a sign. An old song with the exact line you needed finds you at the grocery store. You swear you are done with love. Then you meet someone whose presence rearranges the furniture of your inner world. Call it coincidence if you like. To know that some accidents are too accurate to be accidents. Jung called this synchronicity. A meaningful intersection between your inner state and the outer event. Not proof of magic, proof that the psyche is paying attention. Here is the hard part that most people miss. Synchronicity isn't about fate delivering you the one. It is about revealing the lesson you are ready for. The person arrives not to fulfill your fantasy, but to expose the truth living underneath your habits. The wound you keep rehearsing, the longing you keep outsourcing, the strength you have refused to claim. I've seen it play out countless times. A woman who says she wants gentleness meets the one person who will test her boundaries more than anyone before. A man who insists he's over his past falls headlong into a pattern that looks suspiciously like an old story with new costumes. This isn't punishment. It is precision. Your unconscious is staging a scene to bring the unhealed part of you onto the stage, under the lights, where you can finally see it. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Synchronicity is the moment the unconscious taps the microphone and says, "Listen." That text at midnight, that coincidence in the bookstore aisle, that conversation that feels strangely scripted. It is not a promise that someone is meant to stay. It is a mirror held at the exact angle you have been avoiding. So when the timing feels uncanny, pause. Ask the braver question, what in me is this pointing to? Not, what do they mean? But, what do I need to see right now? Because the universe doesn't just send people. It sends reveals. And if you can receive the reveal, you won't keep chasing the same kind of person to learn the same old lesson. Stay with me. If synchronicity is the mirror, the next step is learning how to read what it is showing you. Without flattery, without denial. There is a moment in every connection, quiet, almost invisible, when your body knows the truth long before your mind catches up. It is the subtle tightening in your chest when you shrink a little to keep the peace. It is the pause before you speak, wondering if your honesty might cost you their affection. That is the line between survival love and soul alignment. Most of us were trained to survive, not to connect. We learned to earn closeness, to perform goodness, to silence discomfort. And in doing so, we confused peace with pleasing. We mistake the stillness of suppression for the calm of alignment. When I first understood this, it felt like betrayal, because some of the people I loved most lived entirely inside my survival patterns. They weren't bad people. They were simply mirrors showing me the parts of myself I had abandoned to stay loved. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But before that privilege, there is pain. The pain of realizing how often you have settled for being half known. The truth is, survival love demands performance. Soul alignment invites presence. You can feel the difference. In survival love, you monitor yourself. In soul alignment, you forget to. You don't bargain for safety or edit your emotions for approval. You speak and something inside exhales as if saying, "Finally, I don't have to hide." That is not fantasy, that is resonance. But here's the twist. You cannot meet soul alignment until you have outgrown survival. You cannot recognize truth until you have seen your own camouflage. So if you find yourself with someone who pulls every insecurity to the surface, it might not mean they are wrong for you. It might mean your soul is ready to outgrow its own disguise. These are the sacred disruptions, the people who don't let your masks rest, the ones who make comfort impossible until you choose honesty. So ask yourself now, does this connection expand me? Or does it ask me to disappear? Does my soul feel safe? Or just my fear? Because if you can answer that truthfully, you are no longer lost in the mirror. You are reading it. And once you can read the mirror, something deeper begins to awaken. The part of you that has been buried beneath old identities starts to rise. That is what we will explore in the next part. There is a quiet rebellion that begins inside you the moment you start to see your own patterns clearly. It is not loud or dramatic. It is the slow ache of recognizing that you have been living from borrowed scripts, trying to keep everyone comfortable while your soul grows restless in the background. You begin to sense it in strange ways. A friendship that once felt warm now leaves you drained. A relationship you fought so hard to maintain suddenly feels heavy, like you are carrying it instead of being carried by it. Even your own routines, your habits, your thoughts start to feel too small for the person you are becoming. That is not a breakdown. That is the unconscious calling you home. Jung taught that the psyche is always moving toward balance, wholeness, integration. When you ignore that pull, life doesn't punish you, it corrects you. It sends you signs, discomforts, and people who embody the exact lesson you are avoiding. And when you keep ignoring the whisper, it becomes a storm. You will know it is happening when life stops responding to your old efforts. The tactics that once worked, pleasing, controlling, fixing, suddenly collapse. No matter how hard you try, the connection doesn't hold. That is not failure. That is transformation demanding honesty. Because when you have outgrown who you were, the unconscious will not let you stay asleep. It will send you encounters that feel both divine and devastating. The ones that shake your certainty, blur your definitions, and stretch your heart to its limits. Not to break you, but to wake you. I have come to believe that every ending, every heartbreak, every "I cannot be with you" is really the soul saying, you are done outsourcing your wholeness. It is a painful initiation, but an essential one. So when the unconscious calls you home, don't rush to silence it. Sit in the discomfort. Listen beneath the noise, because what you are feeling isn't loss. It is truth being restored to you. And if you stay still long enough to hear that truth, you will start to realize that solitude isn't emptiness at all. It is the space where your real self finally has room to breathe. We live in a world that fears quiet. We scroll, we text, we fill every silence with noise, as if stillness were a threat instead of a threshold. But when the universe takes someone from your life, when a connection dissolves despite every effort to hold it. What you are left with is not punishment. It is sacred space. We won't pretend solitude feels gentle at first. It rarely does. It is the ache of walking through your home and hearing echoes where laughter used to live. It is making coffee for one. It is realizing how much of your identity was woven into being someone to someone. And yet, beneath that grief lies something holy, a chance to meet yourself without interruption. Jung wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself." That is the paradox of solitude. It hurts not because you are empty, but because you are full of things that have never been heard. And for the first time, you are the one who must listen. In the silence, the noise of the world fades, and the voice of your soul grows louder. It begins to whisper the truths you silenced for love, the desires you postponed for belonging, the boundaries you blurred just to stay chosen. At first, you will resist. You will reach for distractions, the familiar, the comfortable, the almosts. But if you can endure that weight just a little longer, you will begin to notice something miraculous. You are not lonely anymore. You are becoming known by yourself. That is when solitude transforms. It stops feeling like a wound and starts feeling like a womb. What was emptiness becomes creation. What was silence becomes clarity. And out of that clarity, a new kind of magnetism begins to form. You start drawing in people and experiences that match your truth, not your fear. Because now, you are not chasing completion. You are radiating wholeness. But the path from solitude to wholeness isn't linear. Before you arrive there, you will have to confront one of Jung's most confronting truths, that the people who hurt us the most are often reflections of what we have yet to heal. That is where we go next. Every relationship you have ever had is a mirror, some clean and kind, others cracked and distorting, but all reflecting something true about who you are beneath your defenses. It is a radical thought, isn't it? That the people who betray you, ignore you, or overwhelm you are not cosmic mistakes, but expressions of your inner landscape, the parts you have exiled, the stories you have rehearsed for too long. Jung called this the shadow, everything within us we refuse to see, but continue to project onto others until we finally face it. He wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." And that sentence alone, if you live by it, can change your entire life. Think about the one who made you feel invisible. Did you ever stop to ask where you learned to hide your own worth? Or the one who never stayed? Could they have mirrored your own habit of abandoning yourself whenever things became uncomfortable? We don't like to think of it that way. It feels easier to label others as villains and ourselves as victims. But the moment you stop blaming and start seeing, your power returns. Because what the mirror reveals is not shame, it is direction. Every projection you dissolve brings you closer to wholeness. The person who triggered you didn't damage you. They introduced you to the wound you were finally ready to heal. I know it is hard to accept. It means admitting that the love you chased was just a reflection of the love you have withheld from yourself. It means realizing that what you called fate was often repetition, your psyche trying again and again to get the story right. But once you see it, really see it, everything shifts. You stop searching for closure from them and start offering it to yourself. You stop chasing mirrors and start cleaning the one that matters most, the one inside you. That is the hidden mercy of heartbreak. It brings your reflection into focus, and when the mirror is finally clear, you face the most important choice of all. Do you step back into the familiar pain or walk toward the unknown possibility of peace? That choice, that trembling, terrifying decision, is where the next chapter begins. Imagine yourself standing before two doors. The first one is worn, familiar. The handle fits perfectly in your hand because you have opened it so many times before. Behind it lives the comfort of repetition, the same patterns, the same apologies, the same ache disguised as safety. It is the love you can predict, even if it never nourishes you. The second door is different, untouched, quiet. Its handle feels cold, foreign, uncertain. Behind it lies everything you cannot yet define. Peace, maybe. Solitude, probably. Freedom, definitely. But you hesitate because the unknown is terrifying when your nervous system has been trained to call chaos home. I've stood before both doors, and I can tell you, the familiar one will always whisper louder. It promises comfort, continuity, the illusion of control. But every time you open it, you walk straight back into the same story. Different names, same ending. Jung once observed, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. That is what this moment is about. Choosing the unfamiliar door means walking through the discomfort of awakening. It means saying no to every smaller version of yourself, and yes, to the unbearable spaciousness of who you might become. The universe won't shove you through that door. It will simply keep presenting it until you find the courage to turn the handle yourself. Every painful goodbye, every collapsing illusion, every sleepless night is life whispering, it is time. And when you finally take that step, when you choose growth over repetition, it is not fireworks that greet you. It is quiet, an unsettling quiet, the kind that feels like loss at first. But stay with it, because beneath that silence, something new begins to hum, a life that no longer needs chaos to feel alive. Choosing the second door doesn't erase pain. It transforms it. It turns suffering into space, and space into possibility. It is the threshold between being haunted by your past and being guided by your future. So if you are standing there right now, uncertain, trembling, good, that means you are exactly where your soul wants you to be. Take a breath, reach for the handle, because once you cross it, your relationship to truth itself will change. That is where we go next. The body never lies. It remembers everything. The moments your mind tried to forget. The truths your mouth refused to say. The people your heart outgrew long before your thoughts caught up. You can rationalize a relationship for years, convince yourself it is not that bad, that love is supposed to hurt a little, but your body keeps the score. It tightens when something isn't right. It sinks when you silence yourself. It grows restless when you stay where your spirit has already left. I used to ignore those signals. I'd call it stress, fatigue, overthinking, anything but truth, because truth is inconvenient. It demands change, and change demands courage. But courage begins in the body, not the mind. It starts with that small tremor of awareness, the breath you didn't realize you were holding, the tension that releases when you finally admit what's been true all along. Jung believed intuition was the voice of the unconscious, the body's language for what the soul already knows. When you meet someone aligned with your truth, your body responds with ease. You breathe deeper. Your nervous system settles. There's no guessing, no game, no confusion. Your entire being whispers, safe. But when you are misaligned, no matter how charming, passionate, or magnetic it seems, your body tells a different story. You walk away from conversations feeling drained. You sleep but wake up tired. You start apologizing for existing even when no one's asked you to. These aren't coincidences. They are alarms. The body speaks softly at first, through subtle unease. Ignore it long enough, and it begins to shout. Migraines, anxiety, exhaustion, numbness. Not to punish you, but to pull you back toward alignment. So when your mind insists, I can fix this, and your chest feels like it is collapsing under invisible weight, believe your body. It is never trying to destroy you. It is trying to free you. You don't need to understand every sign right away. You just need to stop gaslighting your own signals. Your peace is data. Your calm is confirmation. And once you learn to trust that language, something miraculous happens. Your intuition becomes your compass. You stop asking for signs because you have become one. That is the quiet power of alignment. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is peace that no longer needs to prove itself. And from that peace, a new kind of love can finally emerge. One that doesn't drain you, but expands you. There comes a point when you realize the person you were waiting for was never meant to knock on your door. They were meant to awaken the version of you who could. All your life, you have been told that love arrives as a rescuer, that one day, someone will see your scars and call them beautiful, and in that moment, you will finally feel complete. But here is the truth no one tells you. Until you learn to stand whole in your own presence, every relationship will orbit your emptiness. I know that sounds harsh, but it is also the most liberating truth you will ever meet. Because the love you have been seeking isn't waiting in someone else's eyes. It has been waiting in your own reflection, buried beneath years of self-doubt, self-neglect, and self-forgetting. Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." He didn't mean it as a warning. He meant it as an initiation, because when you stop chasing the illusion of completion, you begin the real work, to love yourself enough to become your own mirror of peace. You start setting boundaries, not to protect your loneliness, but to protect your energy. You begin speaking truths that tremble on your tongue. You forgive yourself for the years you begged for scraps of love when all along you were starving for your own attention. This is not selfishness. It is sovereignty. It is what happens when your worth stops being conditional, when your validation no longer depends on who stays or who leaves. And here is the paradox. The moment you stop needing love to heal you, love becomes safe enough to find you. You stop attracting teachers disguised as heartbreak and start meeting companions who see your wholeness, not because the universe suddenly changed, but because you did. You have become the one who listens to your intuition, who honors your boundaries, who no longer mistakes chaos for passion or silence for peace. You have become the person your past self was praying to meet. And when that happens, you will notice something subtle but profound. Life starts to feel lighter. Relationships feel freer, and love, finally, feels like home. But even that is not the end of the journey. Because when you become whole, the universe begins to mirror that wholeness back to you. And you realize this was never just about love. It was about awakening. That is where our journey closes. There is a quiet moment after the storm. When the noise fades, the ache softens, and you begin to see the beauty in everything that fell apart. That is what it feels like to come home to yourself. Not a triumphant return with music and light, but a slow exhale after years of holding your breath. You wake up one day and realize you no longer need to chase, to prove, to fix. You are not looking for the one anymore. You are building peace with the one who's been here all along, you. This is what Jung meant by individuation, the process of becoming whole, of integrating the light and the shadow, of seeing that the love you seek and the pain you fear are both invitations from the same source, your soul. When you come home to yourself, the world doesn't suddenly turn soft, but you do. Not weak, but open. Not naive, but unguarded in the way truth makes you fearless. You start meeting people not to complete you, but to share what's already overflowing. You begin to see that every encounter, even the ones that broke you, was never about finding or losing love, but about remembering what love actually is. It is the courage to be fully present, the willingness to stay awake even when it hurts, the understanding that every goodbye was a door opening inward. And when you live from that space, life becomes something else entirely. You no longer chase alignment. You embody it. You no longer search for signs. You become one. And the universe, in its quiet way, starts to send you reflections that match your peace, not because you earned them, but because peace recognizes itself. So if you have ever wondered why you met the one you couldn't be with, maybe now you know. They weren't meant to stay. They were meant to open the path back to your own soul. They were never the destination. They were the doorway. And as you step through it, remember this: no love you have ever lost was wasted. Every connection was a compass pointing you home. So walk forward, slowly, bravely, carrying the quiet knowing that you are already whole, and that every true meeting from this point on will not take you away from yourself, but deeper into it. Because when you finally come home to yourself, you stop waiting for miracles. You realize you are one.